Hey everybody, No Man here. So this is a different sort of video, but it's something that's been knocking around in my head for a while. I normally do stories or quotes or something silly or jokey. Today I want to discuss how to fix the Tau from a lore perspective. Some people don't like the way the units work, or the way they play on the tabletop, or the way they look. But I'm primarily a lore guy, and my problem with the Tau is that I don't really know where they fit in narratively. Initially, the Tau were a bright light in the grim darkness of the far future. They were an up-and-coming young race, a bit naive. They had advanced technology. They didn't have to worry about demons or warp shenanigans too much because they had a weak psychic presence. They were all about working together towards the greater good. The initial criticisms of the Tau, from a lore perspective, were that they were the quote-unquote good guys in a setting that famously has no good guys. Everyone is just varying levels of terrible, ranging from the jaws of hell itself to a fascist, communist, theocratic, bureaucratic, slash literally every oppressive government type dystopian nightmare. The Tau just seemed like a smiling, chipper guy at a funeral, so it was a little odd with how they fit in. GW tried to fix this, and they introduced more dystopian elements into Tau society. They suggested that the ethereals were using some kind of mind control on the Tau and their ally species. There's also the human sterilization incident, which is part of the Tau ending in the Dawn of War series, which consequently isn't the canon ending, so technically it didn't actually happen. Regardless, the Tau became more oppressive. To me, this helped the Tau fit in the setting better, but it removed some of what made them distinct. They kind of became a watered-down version of the Imperium. The only thing that made them unique was they were not xenophobic, and they were an alliance of races, and they were frequently diplomatic. And I think that created a nice dynamic to have aliens that you could actually talk to. But still, I don't think the Tau are where they need to be lore-wise to maximize how interesting they are. So I'm going to say this up front before I go into my suggestions for a solution. This is going to get a little political. I've said on my channel before that I don't like politics, and I'm going to try to avoid it. And that's only sort of true. I actually think politics is very interesting, but modern political discourse and social media, it's just a thing I don't like. But if that's not your thing, if you just don't want to hear anything about politics, you can go ahead and click away. Okay, so the Imperium in Warhammer 40k is essentially a nightmarish version of the right wing, essentially, from a leftist perspective. It is a theocracy, it's xenophobic to the point of being xenocidal, there's a tremendous imbalance of power and wealth, working conditions are appalling, everything is regressive and all about holding up the past, they're highly militaristic, big state-centered kind of thing, lots of patriotism. Yeah, there are some Soviet aspects of the Imperium, but it's mostly a fascist theocracy. And I think that's perfectly fine political satire. It's extreme, but it fits the setting, and you can make points while being absurd. Keeping that in mind, I think what you want to do with the Tau is create a nice contrast and make them a kind of liberal equivalent. Essentially make the Tau naive neoliberals. They believe in progress, they believe in acceptance, they believe in working together, they believe in freedom of expression, freedom of religion, all that fun stuff. They believe in a multicultural galaxy where everyone gets along. Now, this sounds kind of like the original idea for the Tau, where they're just nice guys, but instead you depict them as an equivalently nightmarish version of the left wing. Now, I'm not talking like gulags and Soviet sort of stuff. For example, it'd be more like the Tau preach tolerance, but they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the different cultures within their empire and how they come into conflict. So, for example, can humans live alongside the cannibalistic Kroot? Kroot literally are what they eat. So either they eat more humans and become more human-like, which might cause them to get along better, but the act of eating humans will cause conflict. Or they eat animals and kind of cattle the way humans do, and then they become more bestial. And they can also become a danger to humans as well. How do you resolve that? Or the Tau decide that they're going to accept psycho-refugees who are fleeing the oppression of the Imperium. Well, now you have a bunch of untrained psychers on your planet that are just waiting for a demon to turn them into a gateway to hell. The Tau have a powerful military, but I think a cool way of making them a bit more interesting is that they're ineffectual in projecting that strength, and they often get politically bullied. Because they want to talk before they fight, and their optimism really makes them vulnerable to the ruthless powers in 40K. It's like the Tau are willing to give an inch, but everyone else is going to take a mile. So I think the Tau should be examples of the failings of blind idealism and a tendency to be overly accepting of things that either weaken their society or things that are outright dangerous or evil. The Tau should be an exaggerated example of the failings of a kind of lazy liberalism. Hey, let's all get along, while failing to understand why groups don't get along to begin with and not solving those problems. I could also see the Tau interfering in foreign systems, trying to fix problems, but they just end up creating a giant mess. For example, there might be an imperial system that is horribly polluted. There's a ton of slave labor, and they're working in terrible conditions. And the Tau see this injustice and decide to invade to fix the problem. Suddenly, they have billions of uneducated, unskilled slaves that need to be taken care of in the wake of a war that destroyed the infrastructure of the planet that provided them what they needed to survive. Now they have a violent, desperate population and a crisis that is now going to take away resources from other things the Tau could have been doing. So I think I've given up enough examples of what you can do with the Tau. And I think what would make them more interesting from a story perspective, like these things are going to make it more interesting. However, I don't think this will make people like them more, because being overly nice and kind of weak is very appealing in a war game. But I think you balance it out by making characters in the Tau Empire who are competent. So in the Imperium, there are a lot of decadent, useless nobles that cause a lot of problems. But there are also capable leaders and heroes amongst them who are trying to make things work and, are compelling and you want to follow them. I think you could do a similar thing with the Tau. The worst of the Tau kind of end up being these lazy ivory tower intellectuals who don't understand the situation on the ground. And then you kind of make them cool because the characters that we actually follow can be competent and fight against the weaknesses that exist in their empire and strive to solve these issues or strive to win wars in the face of the complacency of the Tau Empire. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too political. But this is an idea that I had knocking around in my head, and my brain couldn't think of anything else until I put this in a script and talked about it. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I hope you did too. Regardless, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to have a discussion about the issue, and I just ask that you be respectful to each other. You, of course, can be completely mean to me if you want. Anyways, thank you for listening to me ramble. No Man out.